Hi, this is Damon Pistolka, host of The Faces of Business, where I talk with interesting people, sharing life and business experiences to entertain, engage, build community, and provide information to help others succeed. If you're interested in learning more about one of our guests or how we are helping business owners generate wealth and build businesses they can sell or succeed at Exit Your Way, you can find more information on our website, exityourway.com, or by contacting me directly, Damon at exityourway.com. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am so excited today because with me, I have none other than Dr. Alyssa Rodrigues, the State Director of the Manufacturing Extension Partnership in Alaska. Dr. Alyssa, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, am I? I am so excited because, you guys are doing great things in Alaska. Kurt Anderson and I were able to go up there earlier this year and work with some manufacturers up there. And I thought, man, we have to have you on the Faces of Business and talk about what's happening in Alaska manufacturing, the state of Alaskan manufacturing, and just get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I'm excited to share. Yeah, there's a lot happening up here. There's a lot that Alaska and manufacturing kind of need in terms of direction and opportunity, and just being able to take advantage of those opportunities that we have in our state and in the nation.
Super cool. Well, like we always want to do in the Faces of Business is, I'd like to understand, how did you get to being the director of the Alaska MEP?
Yeah. I should begin by David Copperfield, and I was born, but I'll spare you all of that.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of been an interesting and very, kind of nonlinear path. I actually started in forestry and forest management, and just really loved economics. Went from economics in natural resources to, had family in Alaska, wanted to move up here, found a position in labor economics, and actually spent over a decade in labor economics.
Mm-hmm.
And through working with people and I gave a ton of presentations. It was one of my favorite things to do, was to just have, undivided opportunity to talk about data with people. Nothing like a captive audience for your data nerding. But with talking to folks, really saw how much people wanted help with their economy. It was great to be able to share the information with them. But from that lens, you really have to just be objective. And this is the data, this is what it is, and stop there. And I really wanted to be able to go that next step with them. And so, my spouse encouraged me to go ahead and, take a leap, take a risk, and try to see what could I do in economic development, and could that be a field where I could provide some value and help people? Because at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do, was to be able to help people, through economics and through purposeful and intentional economic development. So I went and worked for the state in economic development, and through that kind of learned about the MEP, and at some point actually reached out to some of the other MEP directors to say, hey, what is this thing? Like, what is the point of it? What should it do? From an economic development perspective, how can I engage? And then an opportunity arose fairly shortly thereafter that the MEP in Alaska was kind of finding a new home, and the university had applied for it. And when I found out about that, I was pretty intrigued. And I had run the Made in Alaska program at the state. I had overseen that. And so in the state of Alaska, oh man, I should have had something with the logo on it handy. But there we have a little mother bear and cub logo. And
Mm-hmm.
that means that a product was made at least 51% in the state. And so that's how you know, if you're in Alaska, that you're buying kind of the genuine Alaska made product. We also have, it's called Silver Hand. And so that little logo is an oval with a silver hand in it. And that means that it is a native made piece of art, or, something of that nature. And So yeah, I'd had that exposure to manufactured products, and I really got to start digging into what did we make here? We don't,
Yeah.
it's a very small percent of our economy that's actually in manufacturing. And even when you count seafood processing, it's still pretty small. And so I hadn't had the opportunity before that to really dig in to understand, what do we make here? Who are the people who make things? And so that was really fascinating and exciting for me. And again, spouse encouraged me to, take a leap and try my hand at this program. And I did a lot of research to try and understand, what had happened with manufacturing in the past. Why would it be different, seeing that it was with the university now? And did I think that I could have a positive impact on manufacturing in Alaska through this program? And at the end of the day, we said, yeah, I think I can. And so that's why I came over. And I started the same day the program started, on July 1st, 2019. And really went about trying to figure out, how can we help grow manufacturing in Alaska? And have been working hard at answering that question ever since.
Yeah. That's cool. And I was looking at your history and going through that. Your data background has to be really, really interesting, because you saw this beforehand. You saw the overall economy of the state of Alaska. You saw how much all the different pieces of it were. You saw how manufacturing fit into the overall. And then your forestry background, I mean, that's massive in the Alaska. But what was when you started to look at Alaskan manufacturing, what was the first thing you went, wow, I didn't realize that at all?
That's a cool question. I really think it was the diversity. Just looking at the diversity of products that were made here really just kind of blew me away. And it's one of those, I forget the phenomenon, red car phenomenon or something, where you buy a red car, now all you see. It was the same thing. And Talisa was like, you got to stop this, because everywhere we would go, I'm like, hey, look, it's made here. Hey, look, it's made here. And so, yeah, as soon as I started looking into it, just the diversity, and I had written an article about it when I was in labor economics. I wrote the article on other manufacturing, everything that's non-seafood. So you would have thought that I would have understood through writing that article just how diverse the product lines were. But when you look at something through those North American industrial classification codes, it's very different than, just going to a shelf or sifting through permit data that says this is the product that I make. Everything that's a beverage is going to be classified under that NAICS code. But once you start digging into it, you're like, oh, okay. So we've got coffee, we've got tea, we've got vodka, we've got beer, we've got kombucha, we've got mead. All of a sudden you're like, wow, it's not just beverages. You really kind of open the door to all this diversity. And the same was true when you looked into clothing, and when you started looking into non-mineral, what is it? Non-mineral mining products or something.
Yeah.
And so fascinating as you dig into it to see the diversity that's within even one, NAICS code or SOC code or those sorts of things. So that was one of the most interesting things about kind of being able to dig more into the data. And then you start to meet the people who make it all. And that just makes it so much more fascinating, because now it's not just, wow, that's a really cool product. It's, dang, that's a cool product with a cool person, with a cool story as to how they got here, why they care about it, why it matters to them. And it's like a fractal. Every time you dig into it, you go deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, that is so cool. I want to just take a moment here. Jay stopped by, drop a comment. Hello, Jay. Thanks for being here today. I want to let anyone, if you're listening, drop a question in, drop a comment, let us know where you're listening from, because today we're talking to Dr. Alyssa Rodrigues from the Alaska State Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So excited, because this is just, it's so much fun to learn more about the Alaska manufacturing landscape and what you guys are doing to help manufacturers there. So you guys do a lot of training for manufacturers. So before we got on, you talked about a couple of them. Can you just explain some of the kinds of things that you're helping the manufacturers learn more about that in the past and maybe what you got coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of what we do has a training component. And so it could be really explicitly training. So for example, I want to say in late September, my date scale is squishy, but I believe in late September, we had this amazing sales training by Wesley Greer. And so that is very specific. It was in-depth. It was multiple days where we just poured over, who is your, key consumer, who's your advocate within a business structure, and how do you approach them, the multiple touches that you need when you're trying to attract someone new. It was just so cool. So, and then we actually are wrapping up today a HACCP training. So hazard analysis, critical control point training. So if you're a food manufacturer, if you touch food, in a restaurant, that is something that you need to know, is how to make sure that your product is safe at all points. And so for seafood, you're going to have a different, maybe critical control point than you would with a beverage product and those sorts of things. So understanding where your product or products, where the potential is for them to come unsafe or to become unsafe, and how you're going to control for that, how you're going to make sure you do it right every time. Yeah. And so that training just wrapped up today. We actually had 3 trainings back to back on HACCP. But then so those are really focused, trainings that are kind of classic training. The other thing we've got coming up is end of January. So January 30th will be the start date. We have an export training, and that's going to take folks, again, it's pretty in-depth. It's going to be once a week, over 10 weeks. That's going to take you deep into the how are you going to export your product? What's the right market for you? Do you need different insurance and how to help you get that? So it's not just, it's doing it with you and a little bit for you. So there's a component of both to really make sure that at the end of those 10 weeks, you know that you can export and you're ready to leap into that journey. So those are the very classic kind of classroom style trainings that we have. But then we have other things that we do that provide training, but they're in kind of a non-traditional format. And that can be something like lean manufacturing, where we have somebody come into your facility. And it might be that you're changing facilities. So you have somebody come see the space before you're all got everything in there and help you lay things out to be as efficient as possible. And there's always that component of, hey, I'm coming in, I'm going to lay your space out for you, I'm going to help you. Or you have an established process. I'm going to analyze your process and see how can it become more efficient. Where are the little bits of waste here and there, whether through time, product, etc. But there's also a component of giving you those tools. So it's not just, hey, this, you took 22 steps, you can turn that into 5, but it's helping you to be able to see your own processes through the lens of being more efficient and that lean manufacturing, 5S, etc. So that's another way that there's a training component kind of built into a lot of what we do. We do the same when it comes to e-commerce. There's a component of, you need a website. And so, you need a website, you don't have time, we're going to do it for you. But then you need to know, what's the messaging that you're putting out? Who is your key consumer and how are you going to reach them? You can outsource all of that, but it is going to be so much better if you can be more engaged, if you can speak to who you know is your key consumer, if you can put that time in to figure that out. And that's a training component. And it might not feel like you're being trained because it's just a deep conversation about you and your product and your consumer, but it is. At the end of the day, it's training. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that's the thing that I think about as you talk with the MEPs across the US, and you guys are actually, I think you guys lead a lot of the places in the US because you have to be a little more innovative because of the geography that you cover across Alaska. Is how do we engage these people that aren't going to be able, we're not in a metropolitan area where we got 10 million people. You guys really have to understand how to get training delivered across the wide geographic area that people value and people will want to come to. So what have you guys really learned over the years? Because you've been here from the beginning. What are some of the things that you've learned that really have helped you guys do that?
So I think one of the things that we learned really quickly was that training that is entirely asynchronous, recorded, etc., falls flat. That was I mean, one of the very first lessons we learned is we created a program that was entirely asynchronous. You sign up, you take it, watch it on your own time. We thought it'll be great. And it was, I think, just classic. Like, I don't know why I thought it would resonate with other people, because I can barely say, oh, there's this training I want to watch. I'm going to make the time for it. I struggle with that. So why would busy business owners just, why would they do that? It's way more engaging to be able to do something live, even if you're not in the same room, but to be able to do it live and have that conversation and back and forth. We learned very quickly that was the way to do it. And even though we are really dispersed geographically, humans are humans be humanin', and we want connection. We want to get together. Mm-hmm. And so to the extent possible, we try to provide those opportunities around the state. And as we came out of COVID, more and more people wanted to have opportunities to get together. So that was a big learning curve, was just how are we going to deliver content? And then what was missing? What was not being addressed or provided, by other organizations, or just by happenstance, it kind of never happened. One of those is networking. Our manufacturers don't have a space to go that is for manufacturers, and they want that. We hear it over and over and over again. And so that's something else. We actually, I think it's today. I think there's a veterans networking event in Anchorage, Alaska tonight from 6 to 9 p.m. at the BP Energy Center for all of those Anchorage manufacturers that are listening. So nice. We're trying to create more opportunities for people to just get together. There's so much benefit that comes from knowing other people in your industry and making those connections. I can't tell you how many products we have up here that are proof of that are these collaborations that you're like, oh, I had no idea the people from Wild Scoops Ice Cream knew the people from, this coffee place or this brewery, but their products are together now. And so they do. And that would not have happened if two people hadn't met. And so that's something that we're really working on are those networking pieces.
Yeah. And I think too, across the US, the MEPs are really working on that as well. Aren't some of them starting to put together some sort of network or some kind of way to share that? Because I mean, really, we've heard this before from other companies trying to nearshore, onshore their product, reshore their products. It's like one of the hardest things for us to reshore products is I don't know that I've got a manufacturer what I need right down the street.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is, we have great examples of other states that are really doing a bang up job of getting people together. And usually it comes down to having a few folks who are in the business community who are really passionate about it as well. And so you've got these passionate people in the MEP, passionate people in the community, and they come together and they're really able to kind of co-create something that benefits the whole ecosystem. So yeah, it's absolutely something that folks are trying to do more and more of across the nation. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have some great people out in the communities there. And it really, you can see when you're there how they're engaged with the community, with the economic development people, with the manufacturers, and really leading that charge for the Alaska MEP. What are some of the things that you really get excited about as you see your people meeting more and more manufacturers in Alaska?
Oh man. So there's a lot of things. I mean, I think one of the most fulfilling things about it is the individual successes. Those, when you talk to somebody and you had a project with them, or you have an ongoing project with them, and when they share the impact of that on them personally, that is just one of the most gratifying things, to know that you had some small role, your team, whatever it was, had a small role in helping someone's dream come true. Like, these are their babies. They're passionate about tea. They're passionate about their product. And that's one of the most awesome things to see is when you've helped somebody succeed. We've got someone, and I believe she's working with Kurt, and she might be working with you as well. But Ashley Lattigard from Tilt a Curl, that's one of the coolest stories, and just came from a chance meeting, and then learned that she had this cool product that she was kind of playing around with. And from that initial conversation, she's had, I think, 7 iterations. She's gotten engineering help, design help. We're doing a prototyping run. She's got a website built and getting ready. I mean, she is going to be manufacturing a product that will be purchased around the world, that's new, that's innovative. And it is so cool to have been able to see her and her product grow, and to have been any small part of helping someone's dream that they just thought, maybe I could do this someday. And yeah, darn right you can. And we're gonna help you do it. So that's one of the coolest things, is to be a part of that. And the other thing that's really exciting is just looking at, you mentioned that Alaska is different. We are really isolated from, like a supply chain perspective. And so to see some of these kind of bigger, I hate to say intractable, but really long-term issues that have kind of plagued Alaska's economy, to see those issues and to be able to hopefully move the needle, to be able to take on projects that are going to benefit, one person at a time, but also dig in and say, what are the bigger problems that are getting in people's ways? What are those problems that everybody shares? And how might the MEP play some sort of role in moving the needle towards making that problem better for everyone, not just one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really cool opportunities too.
That is. Now, obviously communication's gotten easier, but do you think that technology is really helping with some of that supply chain, with the remoteness, to be able to get the products a little easier, even if the time doesn't change? What do you see? Is that helping?
I would say, with my, albeit limited experience, I would say the short answer has to be yes. I mean, Alaska is still such a young state. Our infrastructure, we have very little, road and, infrastructure and things like that. And so when you think about the opportunities that technology affords us, from software, to be able to pull a bunch of, logistics companies together, or a bunch of, trucking companies together, and then use software to maximize who's going where and how can we connect. That's awesome. On the other side, you've got remote communities, say, only accessible by air. Winter is going to be awful to try and access them, and somebody needs medicine, like very basic human needs. And now, rather than try and risk a really dangerous flight, on a plane, on a helicopter, et cetera, to try and get someone in, you can do something like that potentially on a drone. And so I think you'd have a hard time saying no, that technology hasn't had a positive impact. There's still so much further to go, because that drone to get, medicine into somebody is going to be just terribly expensive. So it's not a solution for those perpetual problems that we have, but they're definitely opportunities that I think technology is affording us to help people have a better quality of life, to get products moved around the state better. And that's one of the things that I think that we're, I don't want to say banking on, but that we are really taking a hard look at, is how are things different now? Especially when we think about the supply chain, how are they different now than they used to be? And what role does technology play? Is there a role, for AI to play in something like that, in mapping out, the most effective routes or anything of that nature? What opportunities do we have to make use of all the tools at our disposal? And not just us at the MEP, but everybody that we work with.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that are happening in manufacturing? I mean, you guys just finished up the national convention here not so long ago. And what are some of the things you see happening in manufacturing across the United States that you think is really going to impact Alaskan manufacturers?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I think there's a big question mark about AI, which I mentioned before. What impact will that have? What opportunities are afforded? Whether it comes to, marketing and things like that, something as simple as, Chat GPT, give me a list of, marketing ideas for my business for the next, 10 months. That's going to save somebody a ton of time if they just don't have to sit down and think like, oh, what should my themes be? So it can be something as simple as that. Or something as complex as I want to use this to model all these different things and give me this, really intricate output from a supply chain perspective or, logistics perspective. It can really run the gamut, I think. So those are some of the things, or I should say one of the things that I think I'm hoping that the next conference will really dig into that more, and how are other MEPs and manufacturers utilizing those tools. I think one of the two biggest things I think that are going to impact Alaska are supply chain and workforce development. And, supply chain's interesting, again, just because I don't want to belabor that one too much, but it's been a long-term problem in Alaska just due to our isolation and lack of infrastructure. So we got some federal funds to work on supply chain as a nation, and that also affords us an opportunity to really take a hard look at Alaska individually. But on workforce development, I was presenting about the silver tsunami, for a decade, and we are, there should be no surprise about the fact that we have a shrinking working age population. We knew it was coming, but how are we going to handle that? Because by and large, I would love to know what other states like saw that coming and were like, we're jumping on it, and now they're cruising, they're golden, they worked their plan. But we didn't, we saw that it was coming, and we, did a little this, a little that. But most of our manufacturers are in a place where workforce is really tight. It's hard to get. How do you cope with turnover and all those things? And so we're working on that, both with like specific, one-on-one employers, but then also, how can we make a larger impact? What are those things that all manufacturers need that we can collaborate, maybe it's with the university or with the school district on, to try to make sure that the workforce that's coming, and that's, entering in those kids, dare I say, that they will have those skills that our manufacturers need. The other thing that I'm really interested in is how can we as a state, as the manufacturing industry, work with underutilized populations that haven't maybe been given a chance to be in the labor force in the way that others have. So whether those are people with, any kind of disability, whether those are formerly incarcerated, there are groups of people that have been very disenfranchised from the labor force. And in many cases, not because they don't want to be engaged, but because maybe they've heard no so many times, or workplaces, aren't making the small accommodations to large accommodations that they might need in order to engage. And so how can we engage those populations in a way that hasn't been done before?
Well, because you bring up a great point. I work with a company that here in the Seattle area that helps people with developmentally disabled people. They coach them and help them find employment. And they were telling me that in that segment of our population, there's like 75% unemployment. And these are people that want to come to work and do good work every day. And then there's another one here in Seattle, I know, that does hire incarcerated people to come in their workforce, and they're a very big manufacturing company, and these people can come out and they can start working and get technical training and continue to progress through the business and develop very good careers. And this is like, we don't have options in manufacturing anymore to hire people. I mean, but these are gold mines, because you good, loyal people that want to work, that want to grow their skills and their abilities, and really can create great careers for themselves while helping these businesses thrive.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the hard things. I think when we have discussions about workforce is our anecdotal evidence. Everybody's had somebody that they've worked with that's just really been challenging, haven't come to work regularly, it's just kind of pulling teeth. And so I think just tend to label this generation doesn't want to work and those sorts of things. And one of the most hilarious quotes that I found was I think it was, now I'm gonna get it wrong. It was either Plato or Socrates, I forget, who had a fantastic quote about how this generation is lazy and doesn't want to work, and they have things so easy. And when I would give presentations, I'd pop up the quote. Everyone would agree that that's this generation, and then I would show that it was actually Socrates. We've always felt that the coming generation has it easy and they're lazy and they don't want to work. And for the most part, that's not true. We approach workforce differently, work-life balance, all these things. So there are differences. I don't mean to say that there aren't, but we need to figure out how to come together and to just say, they're lazy and they don't want to work. It does everyone a disservice. Like, let's figure out how we can work together and engage everybody who wants to be part of the workforce, as opposed to, kind of putting up those walls that say, nope, I'm going to keep doing what I've always done. And if it doesn't work, it's because they're lazy, not because I'm inflexible. Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. I giggle because it is, you said it's a quote from Socrates. Every generation says it. And it's a challenge for every business right now. And I think that you hit the nail on the head perfectly in saying that we have to learn how to work with everyone to be able to get the people and develop the workforces and the future leaders and people in our organizations we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this, when you imagine your business, this is your baby. You built it. You're proud of it. You want it to succeed. Wouldn't it be a shame if you inadvertently threw it all away because you just didn't want to work with this generation that we don't understand? It's Apple versus Android. They're both phones. They both work. They're both systems that you can use. But if you're an Android person and you're not willing to use Apple or vice versa, you're limiting yourself. And so, if we can humble ourselves to learn how to work with the coming generation, I think those will be the businesses that really succeed. And the businesses that say, what workforce problem? Like, we have people who want to work for us and they stay and it's all great. It's not really a problem for us. Those are going to be the ones that succeed because they engage on a person-to-person level and are willing to be flexible.
Yeah, that's for sure, because it is like you said, it's Apple versus Android. They're both phones. They both do the job. It's just, we just got to figure out how to get them both in the workforce with us.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things, and I know one of the things that the MEPs do a really good job of is helping manufacturers connect manufacturers to grants or other governmental funding opportunities. What are some of the exciting things that you've seen this last year and some of the things that you see that may be coming up?
Yeah. So there's a handful of things. One of the cool things that is a really great opportunity is for help with supplier scouting. And it's called supplier scouting, but if you've got a thing that you make and you need something that goes into that, we can help you with that. And
Nice.
it's actually through the CHIPS Act and everything that all MEPs are providing this service at no cost. And so, we worked with a local utility company, wasn't even a manufacturer, to try and help them find a variety of items that they needed to meet the Buy America, Build America Act. And so we've got the ability to connect with manufacturers across the US to try to find a product that somebody needs, or find somebody who can make the product for them if they've got something that they need that's different. Whether it's trying to connect and get cans and bottles when that's in short supply, or those sorts of things. So that's something that we provide. It's free because of a grant. But you don't even have to apply for it. You just come and ask us, like, hey, I need help finding something.
Now, what is that program again? I want to make sure we.
Yeah. So, I would just call it supplier scouting.
Supplier scouting. Okay.
Supply chain optimization, all those sorts of things. So every MEP's got this, where if you need something, or even if you want to tell the world, I make fiber optic cable, you can go tell your MEP, hey, I make fiber optic cable. Do you know what opportunities are out there for me? And they can plug you in and say, yeah, I have 500 people that have reached out and say they need fiber optic cable. So, who do you want me to connect you with? So that's a really great opportunity And the idea of it is that we're going to build that U.S. capacity to manufacture more and more and kind of rebuild what has been lost over the years. The things that we've got coming up, I mentioned the export training that we have. Well, our state recently got a small export grant. And so it provides reimbursable grants for all sorts of activities related to export. Whether you want your website translated, you want to take a training on export, you want to go to a trade show that includes an international market, all sorts of things can be included if they're tied back to international trade and export. And then we have, and I think a lot of states have this, we have something called incumbent worker training grants. And they're vastly underutilized in our state. I don't know about others, but if you've got workers and you need to get them trained in something, it could be sales, it could be lean manufacturing, it could be a very wide variety of things. You can apply for these incumbent worker training grants. And there's match required, but it depends on the size of your business. Yeah. And yeah, you put together a plan with the grant worker, and it's an amazing resource that not a lot of people know about that allows you to reinvest back into your workforce, which is something that we have a ton of evidence that contributes to retention. So you want to retain your people, there's grants to help you do it.
That's cool. I mean, like I said, you just named off several things that could help the manufacturers in Alaska and any other state. Honestly, go to your MEP. There's one in every 50 states and Puerto Rico too, correct?
Yeah.
And you can get this kind of help. And like you said, the supplier scouting alone could be not just you can find what you need, other people might be able to find you. Yeah. That's a great. This incumbent worker training, I think there's so much missed opportunity there because it's something that you're going to have to train people anyway.
Yes.
And you can go and potentially get part of those costs offset and maybe let you train more people. Mm-hmm. Just so much good stuff that happens around that. And that's one of the things that I didn't realize when I was running manufacturing companies, that A, the MEPs were there, but B, the amount of opportunities for you and the MEP to partner with these funding chances that you have to be able to offset some costs that allows you to move your business forward farther and faster, because you're not footing the entire bill. And we get the benefit on the backside as people have jobs, more tax, all kinds of things that helps in our communities, in our country.
Yep. Yeah.
So cool.
Yes.
So cool. Yeah, it doesn't take me much to get fired up about manufacturing. That's for sure. Because it is so, this comes to my fun questions because we're going to get close to time here before you know it. But I got to ask these because we are talking about Alaskan manufacturing. So what is the coolest, absolutely coolest thing you've seen made in Alaska?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. That would be like, can I have a handful instead of one?
Yeah, give me a handful. Give me some examples because I want people to understand.
Yeah. So I think one of the most unexpected things that we manufacture, there's two that I think are really unexpected. Unless you've been around Alaskan manufacturing, economic development for a while. One would be rocket fuel couplings. And that was one of the coolest things that I learned about. And so it's literally the thing that's providing fuel. And then as the rocket detaches, they decouple. Super critical. And I had no idea that we were manufacturing rocket parts in Alaska. One of the other coolest things, and maybe most unexpected, is I have heard it described as a Zamboni for aircraft carriers. And so aircraft carriers, I guess their decks are very bumpy. Yeah. And they have these little, almost like ball bearings that'll come detached over time. And so rather than having a person out there in kind of a dangerous position cleaning that, there's a machine that can clean that. And we manufacture them here in Alaska. And not only can it do that, it has a lot of other applications. And so they've really branched out in terms of, local governments can use them for cleaning all sorts of things, and reducing overall maintenance costs long-term for those reasons. But I think I want to say our airport here might even use it, because one of the most costly things about a parking garage is shutting it down to clean a floor. And so with this, you're doing it way faster and much more efficiently. And so they're actually losing a lot less revenue when they have to stop things to clean up. And so it's just a really cool product that's made here. And then, some of my other favorite things, and it's more, I want to say it's probably more the manufacturer than it is the actual product. But, we've got folks who are, I think you met them, Damon, who are making freeze-dried dog treats. And they're using what would otherwise be waste.
Yeah.
And that's always one of the coolest things when you've got somebody who's using a product that would otherwise be wasted, and they're turning it into this, beautiful $high product, 100% salmon, nothing else in it. Dog treat that's made, to human grade standards. If you want to eat it, you can. That's fantastic. It's so cool. And then, we've got people that we're helping with, prototyping new tools for, hair designs and for safety and all sorts of things. You lose somebody, how can you reconnect with them, and tools like that. We've got other folks that are making tea. That was a super cool project. We have a manufacturer in Soldotna, Alaska, where you went. And she was looking at getting a piece of equipment. And I think she said the equipment was going to be like $90,000. And we worked with her. We brought somebody in to help find the machine that would meet all her criteria. And they were able to find it for around $30,000, shipped, delivered, everything. So, by having this product, she saved almost $60,000, which is just amazing. And now she showed it to us online. I think it was with Sammy last week. These beautiful pyramid tea bags that are just so beautiful and high end. The tea's delicious, and the whole friggin' thing's compostable. Just throw it in your compost. And wow. So just so cool. And then we've got other folks who are doing more with salmon. We've got other freeze-dried dog treats. We do a lot of dog stuff. We like our dogs. So we've got other folks that are doing, different types of Alaskan, using the skin of the salmon to make dog treats. Super cool clothing that gets shipped around the world, like to Antarctica. Somebody's going on an expedition. They're bringing Alaska made clothing. Just so much. And then the other things that are part of Alaskan native culture that are made here, different clothing items, earrings, all sorts of cool stuff. We've got somebody else who uses entirely recycled plastic. His dream is to use plastic that's recovered from the ocean. And he makes boards out of them, essentially, like 2x4s and those sorts of things. And right now they're making picnic tables out of it. But anything make a 2x4, you use a 2x4 and you could use this. And that's equally just amazing that we've got someone in Alaska that's doing that, that's taking our plastic and making something useful out of it.
Yeah. It's amazing. And in the innovative products, using the materials that are there. It's just so cool to see some of the things that people are making. And then, when Kurt and I were there, when we visited the machine shop, I should have remembered the name, but I don't. Latest technology. Yeah. Yep. Latest technology you'll see anywhere in the world right there. Yep. And explaining how this thing is going to run virtually lights out as much as it needs to run, and just matching those two things together with the ingenuity and the innovation of the people in Alaska, and then the technology is so cool.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
What are the things about Alaska manufacturers that help you and your team just get up in the morning? Because there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah. I would say that their passion is contagious, and typically what we find when we work with people, the tea manufacturing, got into it because they're passionate about tea and about sustainability and all those sorts of things, not because she gets super jazzed to find a piece of equipment, and can't wait to research all that. And so getting to play a role in something that someone else is so passionate about is is so fascinating and fun. And it is the passion. It is the passion of the manufacturers that I think is what gets us up and feeling like we're making a difference, that people have been so willing to share the outcomes of the projects. That's been really awesome. And, when you go into a place, I was in Costco the other day and saw, Steam Dot has a cold brew coffee product, and it went from being in the refrigerated section to on the shelf because they got a food safety test, and the challenge study was all great, and their product is safe to be on the shelf without being refrigerated. And that is awesome. I mean, I'm taking pictures of it and texting it to people because I'm so excited to see that growth for them and all the doors that opens up, and to know the people who that's going to impact is super, super fun. And that it ripples, being able to have that, kind of labor, Department of Labor workforce development, economic development lens to see that this is one manufacturer and this is what's going great for them. But I see how that's going to impact the farmers that Megan's going to work with and who are going to be able to grow more of their product and sell it to her, or the folks that Steam Dot's going to employ now that they wouldn't have before. And it might be 1 or 2 jobs, but those are real people. They're real people who, live on the other side of town, who have a job now that might not have if we hadn't done this project. And that's awesome. It's so, so cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love talking with you, Dr. Alyssa, because it's the passion comes through. It's infecting. And I can see that when you guys are helping, and just the desire to serve the Alaskan manufacturers and really help them succeed, and just watch the economy grow there. We're winding up, and it's so much fun talking to you. I want to
thank you.
James Kunkel stopped by and said yes. James, that guy knows coatings. I'll just say that. I don't even know enough about coatings to do it, but James is the king of coatings, and he's been doing a live stream podcast for a long time about it, and it's really, really interesting, But Dr. Alyssa, I want to thank you for being here today and just letting us know what's happening in Alaska manufacturing and what's happening with the Alaska Manufacturing Extension Partnership, or the Alaska MEP. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I really appreciated a chance to get to come and chat with you and share, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to have you and learn so much today. Now, if you've been listening to this and you don't want to learn more about the Alaska manufacturing and the Alaska MEP and learn more about it from Dr. Alyssa, go back to the beginning of this thing, this broadcast, and check it out, because there's a lot of good stuff in here. And I'm going to tell you, you are going to want to come to Alaska. You are going to want to see some of these manufacturers in action, because they are making some cool stuff. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. We'll be back again. Dr. Alyssa, just hang out for a moment and we'll finish up after we're shut down here.
Thank you.